What's going on, guys? Mega Gig back with another video. Hope you all had a good weekend. Diving back into our build guides. We're sticking with Barbarian again today, and then I'll probably swap out for a couple different classes I've seen on other people's videos and whatnot, where people are tired of only seeing Barbarian stuff. So don't worry, we're going to get to all of them, but I'll probably try and switch it up and get some other things in here too, rather than doing all in one class and all in the other, and etc. etc. Anyways, today we're looking at the HOTA build, and this build was popular quite a few seasons ago before I had come back to playing, and I guess the build died out. I don't know if it was nerfed or whatever, but the new 2.6.1 patch has brought this build back in a strong way, and currently on the PTR it is the #1 build right now, and it's taken the #1 spot a couple of different times throughout the entire lifespan of this PTR, and it is very, very strong. Arguably one of the strongest Barbarian builds, and I say this because yes, in really high density, Charged Barb and Whirlwind are going to beat this build, but in overall consistency, this build can do unbelievable damage in great density, but it also has outstanding single target damage. So this is a fantastic all-around build. It's a great starter build, with the exception of the weapons that we'll get to here in a minute, because they're kind of hard to find. But this is the Season 12 gift. So if you are wanting to play a Barbarian and don't have the Immortal Kings set yet, I would go for that. Let's go ahead and dive into this build. I've got some gameplay going of just a Greater Rift 95. My gear is pretty good. It's not completely finished, and there's no augments at all on any of this gear. But I do have a lot of ancient pieces, and some of the stats have been re-rolled pretty good. I do have a decent amount of area damage. And then my Paragon level right now is just 1248. So yeah, anyways, we'll go ahead and get into this. The weapons you're going to want to be using on this build, once you get them at least, is the Little Rogue and Slanderer, the Istvan's Paired Blades set. These go absolutely perfect with this build. And the bonus you get every time you spend primary resource gains 6% increased attack speed, damage, and armor for 5 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. And you can see, let's see here. Yeah, you can see one stack there, 1, 2, 3. And so yeah, it's just great stacking damage, attack speed, and armor, and all things that go great with every build. Yeah. These weapons are pretty rare. They're hard to find, and if you get a good set, it's really hard to find. On the live servers, I actually don't have a good set. I found both of these over my span on the PTR, and they're pretty good. If I could, I'd probably get rid of the vitality on at least one of them for something else, but I'm not entirely sure yet. But yeah, I've got area damage rolled on them, and on my shoulders too. But anyways, yeah, go for the Istvan set. You do want this. If you don't have this set, be sure that you are on the lookout for these, because these go perfect with this set. If you do not have these weapons, you can in the meantime go with an Immortal King's Boulder Breaker, or if you really wanted to, you can go for the Bulkathos weapons as well. They work nice, especially with the well, no, you don't really gain the attack speed because you're not whirlwinding. Never mind, forget the Bulkathos set. Yeah, previously when I first tried this out, because I'd never tried it before, I was using the Immortal King's Boulder Breaker. So if you don't have Istvan set, go for the Immortal King's Boulder Breaker. And yeah, and then of course, as I was saying, you want the Immortal Kings, the entire set if you can. You want 6 pieces at least, but if you have these weapons, then you're going to need these pieces, specifically the torso, head, legs, hands, feet, and waist. That way you don't have to use the Ring of Royal Grandeur. And the set bonuses, the 2-piece set bonus, of course, call the Ancients last until they die. And they don't die very often on easier content, but when you really get up in like the 85 plus range on Greater Rifts, especially on certain mobs, they can die, and so you do need to keep an eye on them. and resummon them, and I'll talk about that when we talk about the skill. The 4-piece set bonus: reduce the cooldown of Wrath of the Berserker and Call of the Ancients by 3 seconds for every 10 Fury you spend with an attack. We're going to be spending a ton of Fury with Hammer of the Ancients, so we do benefit from that greatly. And then the 6-piece set bonus, this got hugely buffed this season. While both Wrath of the Berserker and Call of the Ancients are active, you deal 1500% increased damage, and that's not to any one skill. That is completely all of your damage. You deal 1500% increased damage. Now that's not counting things like Pain Enhancer, like with, for instance, the Necromancer. The bleed on this is also increased. This is just damage you do. It's not from gems and other things like that. They don't take increased damage. You deal increased damage. So I hope that makes sense. As for the shoulders, you're going to want the Fury of the Ancients. Call of the Ancients gains the effect of the Ancients' Fury rune, and the Ancients' Fury rune gained 4 Fury every time Ancients deal damage. You definitely want this, because in bigger groups you're gonna need the Fury, and I'll come back to that again in a minute when we're talking about the skills and explain. I don't want to get too far sidetracked from the gear right now. You're going to want the Bracers of the First Men as your bracers. Hammer of the Ancients attacks 50% faster and deals up to 500% increased damage. So that is a huge damage multiplier on our Hammer of the Ancients. So yeah, definitely a must here. And then one of your rings, you're going to want Call of the Convention of Elements. Call of the Ancients? What am I talking? Convention of Elements, gain a percentage up to 200% increased damage to a single element. And this is a fire build that we are doing. So 4 out of every 16 seconds, which is right after the cold roll, we will get 200% increased damage to our fire element. So massive multiplier there. And then for your other ring, you're going to want the Compass Rose along with your amulet, the Traveler's Pledge, for the Endless Walk set. While moving, damage taken is reduced by 50%, so this is going to really help you when getting from pack to pack. It's going to keep you, you can see our toughness just increasing as we move up to 50%. And then while standing still, your damage dealt is increased by up to 100%. It does take a few seconds to change from one to the other, but so the movement part helps you get from pack to pack and stay tougher while you're not attacking and not sustaining. And then while you're standing still, you do lose some direct toughness, but now you're attacking, now you're sustaining. And so it kind of evens out and helps you do a lot more damage, especially to single target things like the Rift Guardian and whatnot. For gems, diamonds are great. Of course, if you're tough enough, you can go with rubies. If you're really low on vitality, you can go with amethyst again. But diamonds are a great gem to put in here. And then we don't really need a lot of cooldown reduction, so we're going with an amethyst in the helmet for 23% increased life. That's, of course, if you get the max level of it, it's going to be whatever, you know, level it is. Yeah, for the legendary gems, we are going with a Pain Enhancer. Again, kind of like the Whirlwind build, we're not really... The bleed is nice, but our main focus from this gem is gain the Blood Frenzy, granting you 3% attack speed for each bleeding enemy within 20 yards. This is going to increase our attack speed very, a lot, yeah. It's going to increase our attack speed very much a lot in big groups and allow us to do that much more damage and also sustain that much more. We're also going with Bane of the Trapped, increase damage against enemies under the effect of control impairing effects by, you know, whatever level you have. And of course at level 25 it gains a movement slowing effect by itself. So basically everything around, with the exception of Juggernaut elites, take a percentage more damage, a flat percent. So it's a really nice extra multiplier there. Then of course we're going with Bane of the Stricken. Each attack you make against enemy increases the damage it takes by whatever level you have percent. And then you also gain 25% increased damage against Rift Guardians and bosses. So another great gem, one of the greatest gems in the game. Yeah. For the cube, we are going with the Gavel of Judgment in the slot, and the damage of Hammer of the Ancients is increased by 100%. A huge multiplier, guys. It's super necessary. And it returns 25 fury if it hits 3 or fewer enemies. So basically, because it costs 20 fury and it returns 25, it doesn't spend any fury. You actually gain fury. If you are about to run out, you can just run away from the pack real quick and try and just hit 1 or 2 units and regain your fury back up. Another thing that's absolutely essential, Band of Might. After casting Furious Charge, Ground Stomp, or Leap, we're just using Furious Charge in this build, gain 80% damage reduction for 8 seconds. That is a huge amount of damage reduction. You can see our toughness goes clear up, and we don't have any other buffs or anything, so that is a must. Now here's where you get a little bit of wiggle room. I am using Mage Fist. Fire skills deal 20% increased damage. It's just another multiplier to help you do more damage. Another option that is fairly popular is the Aquila Cuirass. While above 90% primary resource, all damage taken is reduced by 50%. So if you're having toughness issues, this is a great item. The only thing you run into with this is if you get into really dense packs, your Hammer of the Ancients starts costing fury because you're not benefiting from the second part of this, where you're generating fury if you're only hitting 3 or fewer enemies. If you got a lot of density, you're hitting 6, 7, 10 enemies, whatever, you are spending fury. And your Fury of the Ancients is generating fury generally enough to keep you attacking, but you're not staying at maximum fury anymore. And therefore you're not benefiting from this, and all of a sudden your toughness just drops like crazy. Now, 2 things about this. One, while it's active, you are tougher than nails, I guess. I don't know. You can be standing in a pack, and as long as you're benefiting from this and you've got all your other buffs up, even on a Greater Rift 95, you can stand in one of the purple arcane beams and it doesn't touch you as long as you're attacking. Doesn't even hurt. However, when Aquila Cuirass drops off, you lose a lot of toughness, and yeah, you're not really benefiting from it at all. I prefer the Mage Fist because it's 20% more damage all the time, and you're not having to worry about when this drops off. It's just not there. So essentially you are weaker, you don't have as much toughness, but you're kind of used to it and you're used to what's going on. Now you'll notice in the gameplay I do die a couple of times. Once or twice I was just not paying attention and my Band of Might dropped off and I didn't charge. Another time I was just out of position and I died. So it does really come down to you if you want another damage multiplier or if you want the toughness. It just kind of depends. But this is all the time. This is only at max fury. Or near, while above 90%, sorry, which is near max fury, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, that's really up to you guys. You'll have to make that call on your own. I find that the majority of the time with this, I still have enough toughness, but you will die on occasion. And if you're not paying attention with this, you'll die on occasion too. So that's really up to you guys. On to the skills. Let's go down the left side first. We're using Warcry Impunity. Increase resistance to all elements by 20% while affected by Warcry. Another great option is Veteran's Warning. Actually increases your toughness rating more than Impunity, but we're going to be not really mobile in this build. We're going to be standing still a lot attacking. And so I don't really want me personally, I don't really want the chance to mitigate damage. I want to make sure I'm mitigating everything that I take because, again, we're going to be standing still. So, so for me, I'm going with Impunity. Seems to work out pretty well, and it helps a little bit more with elemental type damages, fire chains, and arcane beams, and things like that. We're using Furious Charge, Merciless Assault. Again, Furious Charge is going to trigger our Band of Might in the cube. And then also we're using the Merciless Assault rune. Recharge time is reduced by 2 seconds for every enemy hit. Effect can stack up to 10 times, or recharge time by up to 10 seconds. So this is a great mobility skill, great in and out skill, and it also triggers our Band of Might. We are using Call of the Ancients together as one as well. And this is why you need to keep track of how many ancients you have alive, especially in elite packs. Be sure you're looking up there, because 50% of all damage dealt to you is instead divided evenly between the ancients. And so if you have only 2 or 1 ancient up, you are taking more damage and less damage is being divided between them. And you will notice, you will feel it. When you might not feel it as much at 2, but when only 1 is up, and especially when they die, you will definitely notice. On to the right side here, our main attack is Hammer of the Ancients, and that's HOTA for HOTA build, Hammer of the Ancients. I guess it's called the HODOR build sometimes too, from Game of Thrones. But anyways, Hammer of the Ancients Smash. We're using the Smash rune, which is the fire rune, and that's basically the strongest, most direct damage smash for 640% weapon damage as fire. And we are using Battle Rage Bloodshed. This skill pretty much works its way into every Barbarian build, and for good reason, because it's crazy extra damage. It's basically free damage. The more you're critting and the more damage you're doing, and it really goes well with this build if you're in a big pack and you're on an Oculus ring from your follower. I've got the Oculus ring equipped here, and you get on your fire roll. You start exploding enemies from this, and then this is charged up too from all the extra crit damage from this. And so big booms, lots of big booms, guys. So Battle Rage Bloodshed, pretty much necessary again. And of course, Wrath of the Berserker Insanity for the extra damage and all the extra bonuses there. For our passives, there's a little bit of wiggle room with these. The first 2 that you really do want to have is Rampage, increase strength by 1% up to 25 times for each kill. So 25% strength, great damage, great toughness. And then Ruthless, you deal 40% additional damage to enemies below 30% health. It's going to help you of course kill elite packs faster, but also it helps you clear out trash faster. You know, the closer they are to death, the faster they die. Now here's where you get a little wiggle room. Berserker Rage, you deal 25% additional damage while near maximum fury. And you're going to be at max fury a lot of the times, especially when you're on just an elite pack, if there's not good density, or if you're on a Rift Guardian. So it's a lot of extra damage there. You can swap it out for Brawler if you find yourself not being at maximum fury very much. That's another good skill. It's 5% less damage multiplier, but it's great in high density. And then our other skill, Bloodthirst. Each point of fury spent heals you for 966 life, and this is the heal amount is increased by 1% of your health globe healing bonus. So I can go in here and look at my life per fury spent. It's 2,700, and that's because of that skill. And then I also have life per fury spent on my belt. So roll life per fury spent wherever you can. I think that's the only place I have it, I believe. Yeah, you can get it on your weapons too, but you don't really need it because again, it's increased by your health globe bonus too. So yeah, so 2,700 health per fury spent, and then we also get our life per hit from our Paragon points too. This makes a huge difference, guys, in sustain. It really does. I've tried the build without, and it just doesn't work very well. However, if you are sustaining good enough, you can swap out. Superstition is a great defensive skill for this, and you also have a chance to gain 2 fury when taking damage from ranged or elemental attack. So in really big mobs, this also helps you stay topped off on fury in this build too. So it's kind of another option there, but Bloodthirst is almost necessary depending on where you're at. Now, one thing I will say, now that we've covered the skills, if you don't have the Istavans set, you can, if you're using the Immortal King's Boulder Breaker, you can instead swap out Bloodthirst for Weapon Master, and then you're gaining 2 fury per hit, regardless of if you're on a single target or in a big group. which will continuously keep this procced, and in turn you'll want to be using Aquila Cuirass because you're attacking slower because it's a two-handed weapon. The Immortal King's Boulder Breaker is, and so this is going to keep you topped off on defense as well. So keep that in mind, guys. As for Paragon points, I've got Maximum Fury. We don't really benefit damage-wise, but because we get in some density sometimes and we start spending Fury like mad, as you can see in the video sometimes, it's nice to have that extra Fury to be able to hit 2 more times. So Maximum Fury isn't super necessary, but I like to have it. Movement speed is really nice in this build. I've thrown a few points into Vitality as well, just to get me over 1.3 million, and then dump the rest in Strength. When it comes to offense, again, it's pretty standard critical hit damage, or critical hit chance, then damage. And however, you don't really need cooldown reduction with this build, so we're going to go with attack speed 3rd and then cooldown reduction 4th. When it comes to defense, we're going to go with resist all, armor, life, and life regeneration. And then for the utility, we're going to go for life per hit. That's pretty much always first. And area damage, resource cost reduction, and gold fine. Resource cost reduction doesn't really help us a whole lot because we're using the Gavel of Judgment. Of course, if you're in big mobs, you're going to be spending Fury, tons and tons of Fury anyways. So yeah, for our follower, it's basically kind of what I run for everything now. Make sure you have her or whatever the follower's item is where they can't die. And I like to run the Windseeker coupled with Wyward where they have a chance to stun. And then, of course, you'll want to run an Oculus Ring on them as well. If you're running a build with a Unity, just a little side point here, get rid of Wayward before Oculus Ring and run the Unity there. That's pretty much this build, guys. That is the HOTA build. I've had some gameplay going. I may throw a little bit at the end full screen so you guys can kind of see how it's going, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed the build. Let me say to myself live, make sure I went over all this. We went over the gear, went over the Paragon, went over the cube, and went over the skills. Yes, all right, we covered everything. Because there was a video a while back that it was actually the Whirlwind build that I ended up having to take down, and I realized after I took it down that anyways it needed to be redone because I didn't even address the cube. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like and a comment if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more. And yeah, I sure do appreciate it. Let me know what you guys are going to be playing. Let me know, those of you that are going to be playing Barbarian this season, are you going to have a HOTA Barb at all? Is it going to be your main build? Yeah, let me know, guys. And we never address the gems in the weapons, but unless it's a Thorns build, you always go critical hit damage. So thank you guys for watching, and more good stuff to come. Take care.